During his working life, Peter Galla has buried more than 30,000 people. As a gravedigger at the Basel cemetery called Hörnli, he has had many moving experiences.
Das ganze Feld hier innen habe ich beerdigt.
I've buried all the people in this cemetery plot, and I've dug it over not only once, but twice. 20 years after people were buried, I cleared it to make way for other graves.
Und dann wieder rein.
Galla's parents are also buried here. With the first frost around All Saints' Day, he clears the flowers from their grave to replace them with a winter decoration.
Denn ich habe Pech gehabt, ich habe mit rund 10 Jahren.
I was unlucky. I lost my father on my 10th birthday. Death has always been close to me and my family. As a child, it seemed I had to spend every minute of my spare time with my mother at the graveside.
Als kleines Kind noch hat jede freie Minute an der Hand von der Mutter auf den Gottsacker gehen.
Galla retired recently, but still helps out at the cemetery. He lives in the grounds together with his wife Roswitha. The two regularly drive across the nearby border to Eichsel in Germany to tend the graves of her parents and say a quick prayer in the church. Here a shrine commemorates 3 virgin missionaries from the 10th century. Human skeleton remains are now a rare sight in Switzerland.
People don't know about this nowadays, but we used to have huge ossuaries in Canton Valais, for example. It's only today that we've become what you might say a sterile society. We prefer to push death aside and live. But death, the grim reaper, is always at your side. No one, say, can guarantee that I'll leave this church door.
During his many working years, Galla collected all sorts of things connected with death and built up a funeral museum, which is rather unusual in Europe. The items range from crosses, hearses and coffins to mementos of hair and early surgical implants of the dead. It all started 40 years ago, when the young Galla was asked to destroy and dispose of some old urns.
When
I saw these urns, I just couldn't destroy them and throw them away. My boss wondered what on earth I was thinking, so I explained that I considered them pieces of craftwork and wanted to display them in one of the buildings here. He then suggested that I should start a museum. Here we see the signs of a good burial. What's a good burial? A good burial was when people afterwards stayed in the pub until late. Then what happened was that the horse became hungry and returned to the stable alone. Since the brakes were on, the horse would pull the hearse with locked wheels, which eroded the metal. This was no big problem for the horse, since these carriages were fairly light. I can even lift this one with one hand.
Even though it became almost routine for Galla to deal with funerals, burying children has remained very hard.
I once buried a boy who was a member of a sports club. The children from the club attended his funeral with toy windmills. There was absolutely no wind, so they tried blowing air into them, but they still wouldn't turn around. But just as we started to lower the coffin into the grave, a gust of wind came up. You could even say a divine gust of wind, and made the windmills turn. The children stopped crying and beamed with joy as their toys suddenly came to life. The priest seized on this situation and worked it into a prayer saying, "Look, just like your windmills are turning around with this wind, your friend is going up to heaven, where God is already waiting for him." Such moving moments still touch me, despite my long years of funeral experiences.
How does Galla want to be buried himself?
I want to be cremated and put into this urn. It's an old third-class urn from the Basel crematorium. I was born with no possessions, and when I leave this world, I can't take any with me. That's why I think a third-class urn will suit me best.
Geeignetste, was ich mir vorstelle.